Hi there, I'm Mike, and what I have for you today is Star Wars The Black Series D4, Luke Skywalker and Yoda. This is a release in 2020 as part of the Empire Strikes Back 40th Anniversary Collection. Because it's 40 years ago that Empire Strikes Back came out, so Hasbro decided that pretty much everything released this year has to be Empire Strikes Back related. Almost. Go ahead and take a look at a picture of the figure while I read the bio on the back of the box. Commemorate the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back with Luke Skywalker and Yoda figures. At the urging of Obi-Wan, Yoda agreed to instruct Luke, developing his Jedi abilities. That's it. That is probably one of the most meta blurbs on the back of a box we've gotten so far. It is literally a blurb about the figures themselves, not necessarily the characters or the scene they're in, which is the case pretty much all the time, except for this. We get two figures in here. We get Dagobah Luke and Yoda. Now this is probably the 15th Luke we've received in the line so far. This is technically only the second Yoda, although the first Yoda was released 3 times. So if you bought all the different releases, it's the same figure, just 3 different boxes, and I guess 2 different paint jobs. So starting off the review with the likeness, does this figure in my hand look like the Luke Skywalker we get in the movie? Luke Skywalker is portrayed famously by Mark Hamill, and to sum it up, I suppose it would be most accurate to say he has one of those faces that seems to be really hard to properly capture into a 6-inch or even sometimes a 3 3/4 inch scale. We've never really had one in the Black Series line so far that I felt super looks like Mark Hamill until recently. Some of the more recent photoreal face printing ones, yeah, Mark Hamill's in there, but it's still not right. This right here though blows them all out of the water. The likeness to Mark Hamill is, I usually would say, uncanny or eerie to denote that, oh, it looks like I have a tiny person in my hand. This, I would say, transcends that because it does, but weirdly, it doesn't do it in a creepy way. There's no uncanny valley with this. It just looks like I have a tiny Mark Hamill in my hands, and I like it. So with this look, Hasbro's given us the Dagobah fatigues is what I call them because that's what the Power of the Force 2 figure was called. It's basically though his Bespin gear minus his jacket and belt, but everything here is a new sculpt, which we'll get into. Moving on to Yoda, this smallest figure is probably one of the biggest pieces in the package. If you've watched any of my list videos on my channel, one of them, actually 2 of them, are the worst figures in the line, you know, according to me. Obviously, it's my opinion. Yoda has been on both of them because the Yoda figure they released back in 2014, and to a lesser extent, the Archive Update / ESB 40th Anniversary Update, they're bad. They're bad figures. Yoda's too big. The original one had just terrible paint, and it's still just, it's really small, and there's not a lot there for basically the full price of a figure. This one is even smaller, but this is the scale that Yoda should have been the whole time. Now, initially, when I saw pictures of him online, I thought that Yoda's too small because I'm used to seeing the Yoda that I have in my collection. This is the height he's supposed to be. It's still not quite there. I feel like maybe the head is just a little bit too big, or the fact that he doesn't really have a neck. The proportions on him are still wrong, but not nearly as wrong as the previous Yoda in the line. So these are the figures that we get, but what else do we get? What do they come with? What are the accessories that are included in the box? And maybe what are some accessories we should have gotten? Starting off with Luke here, he has some specific Luke accessories. Number 1, we have his blaster. Now this is the same blaster he has on the Bespin Luke Skywalker. I don't really know why this one came with it, to be honest with you. To my knowledge, he never really uses this blaster in Empire Strikes Back while he's dressed like this. Yes, he puts his belt on, but he also puts his jacket on to go confront Darth Vader. But he never just kind of picks up his gun, even casually. So it's weird that this one comes with it. But having an extra blaster is nice because you can give it to your snowspeeder Luke if you want to. The blaster itself is molded with details like a blaster should be. It's got a little bit of silver paint on the muzzle and then some brown on the handle. It does fit nicely into his right hand, which is molded with the trigger finger. Sadly, there's no place to store it on this figure. So if you don't have it in his hand, I guess you just don't try to lose it. Next, we have the Skywalker family lightsaber. To my eyes, this is the same lightsaber that came most recently with the Snowspeeder Luke. It has the O-ring to attach to the belt, kind of positioned to the side to make it hang nicely. However, just like the blaster, he doesn't have anything to actually hang the belt on. And again, he never really used the lightsaber while he was wearing this. Now, I'm not complaining here. If I'm getting a Luke Skywalker, yes, I want him to have a blaster. I want him to have a lightsaber because those are Luke Skywalker's weapons. Every Luke Skywalker should come with a blaster and a lightsaber. I'm just pointing out the fact that they come with this, but I don't think he ever actually used them like this while dressed like this. Now, if you're cheap and you don't want to pay for the whole package, Hasbro is releasing just this figure, just like this, as part of the 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back wave. So if this strikes your fancy and you just want to get this, you can go ahead and pick that up instead. Now, there are a couple of accessories that don't come with the 40th anniversary Luke, but do come in this pack. And those are basically alternate hands. His alternate left hand actually is a palm out hand, and you can use that for like force push or talk to the hand, but what it's for is handstanding. It was the thing I was probably most excited for, and I spent like an hour and a half trying to get Luke in this stupid pose. I even went and watched YouTube videos for this figure, something I don't normally do because I want my opinions to be my own. But shout out to Hyperspace Vault and Out of the Basement YouTube channels. I watched both of yours because you had them in the thumbnail, and I'm like, it's gotta be possible, and you did it both on camera. Kudos to you. You gave me the mental fortitude to push through and try it. I wasn't gonna be outdone by other Star Wars nerds. I can do it too, dang it. And eventually I did, but damn, was it hard to do. And there's no way you're going to display him like that. He will not stay like that for more than 20, 30 seconds. So if you're trying to do that toy photography, keep your camera ready. When you get him going, you've got a limited amount of time before he falls right over. On top of his alternate left hand, he does have an alternate right hand. And the alternate right hand is molded to give you some force abilities. This is something that literally every Jedi Force user should come with. Because guess what? Every Jedi can use the Force. So far, outside of this, the only one that's come with one is Qui-Gon. We have the alternate left hand with his finger and his thumb, so you can have the shape of an L on your forehead. The years start coming and they don't stop coming. These alternate hands are probably some of my favorite things to have on the figure. Yeah, the cuppy hands for holding things are great. The alternate hands, I feel like, tell so much more of a story. You can have them waving to somebody. The only complaint I have about this one is due to the molding on it and getting that handstand, it doesn't have a full range of movement to keep it tight. So he has sort of a jazz hands kind of situation going on, which honestly, I kind of like anyway. You can also, with both of them on, get them in a really rad Kamehameha pose. So again, there's a lot of really alternative looks you can get with Luke Skywalker, simply because they included two alternate hands. Yoda, the other figure that comes in this pack, comes with some accessories himself. First, we have his little, I think it's called a Gimmer stick, if I remember right. If I remember my old expanded universe Star Wars lore. This stick is smaller, obviously, than the one that came with the original Yoda. It is weirdly a little sturdier, and it's sculpted, I think, a little bit better. This one actually feels less rubbery, which means that he can actually use it to stand, which is great. It fits nicely in his hand, and it fits in both hands. You can also use it to fight off seagulls. Not a big accessory, but for Yoda, an important one. Now, just like Luke Skywalker, Yoda comes with alternate body parts too, but instead of hands, Yoda comes with an alternate Yoda head. Yoda can be easily decapitated just by pulling on his head. This Yoda right here has closed eyes instead of open eyes. He also has that sort of concentrated lip pursed look about him, as if he were looking towards the future, or trying to lift an X-Wing out of the water, or trying to see if Target has Cobra Island G.I. Joes or NECA Turtles in stock. This alternate look for Yoda is probably my favorite thing about this Yoda. It's so rad to have this alternate head to give you this very scene-specific look, but it's an important look, and I love it. It's so good. Now, that's not all for accessories. We've got Luke, we've got Yoda. Obviously, we need a backpack, and it does come with this really nice acid wash denim backpack. The backpack does fit easily over Luke's head and around his shoulders. Now getting the peg into the back of the backpack can be kind of tricky. You kind of have to get your finger inside the backpack and push it against the plug to try to fully get it in. Otherwise, it's not going to be secure. It does take a little bit of effort, but with some time and some proper pushing, it pops right in. Once you have the backpack on Luke Skywalker, Yoda just kind of fits right in there. And here we have Yoda and Luke together at last. And yes, this is how they're going to be displayed in my collection, because why wouldn't you? With his backpack on, Luke is ready for his first day of Jedi school, and then you can run, and jump. Yoda can be his backpack while he runs. Swing on a hairy vine. I could be your backpack while you climb. So that's everything that comes in the pack, and we have a lot. We have alternate hands and alternate head, things we don't often get in the Black Series. So I'm very happy that Hasbro sort of pulled out all the stops when it came to this. Now, there are a couple things that I do wish it came with. Number one, the belt that he put on to store the blaster and his lightsaber would be nice. Also, it would have been kind of cool, I guess, to have some sort of soft goods jacket to put over. So if you wanted to have that scene with the belt and the jacket on, that would have been neat as well. That's really more wishful thinking. I'm not knocking anything down because it didn't come with that. I just would have liked it. But something I really do think that Luke should have come with is an alternate head, just like Yoda, so he can have his eyes closed. A lot of using the Force comes down to concentrating with your eyes closed. They did it with Yoda, they could have done it with Luke, especially in this pack. In that same vein, it's really cool that Hasbro gave Yoda a closed-eyed head, but it would have been cool if they'd given him some open hands to use the Force. The hands he comes with are closed to hold something, which is fine for 90% of the poses. But if you want to have him like he's lifting the X-Wing up, palm out hand would be great. Also, it would have been nice to have like some Force effects or rocks for Luke to lift or something like that. But I'm not really nitpicking that hard. I do feel like Hasbro gave us a lot here. Overall though, love it. So that's what they come with. Let's go ahead and take a look at the way they move.
His head has a ball joint at the base of the skull that allows for a lot of movement all the way around. It also has a ball joint at the base of the neck, which allows for a very wide movement. He has a very well hidden butterfly joint at the shoulder, a single jointed arm that allows for a very deep bend, as well as a swivel. He has a swivel at the wrist, as well as a hinge. This wrist hinges this way. He has a torso joint that allows for a swivel. It moves forward that far, back that far. His leg can move this far out, not very far back because of his butt. He has an upper thigh swivel, a single jointed hinge at the knee, as well as a swivel. He has a hinge at the ankle, as well as a rocker, with this being Luke's widest stance with both his feet flat on the ground.
So from head to toe, the way Luke moves is great. Not perfect, but great. He does have that newer double jointed neck. It does give a decent range of movement, especially forwards and backwards. His shoulders do have really well hidden butterfly joints. They don't have a lot of range of movement, but having some range of movement is better than no range of movement. And so far, there's not really been any poses that I couldn't do because he lacked the butterfly joint. You'll notice that his elbow has a single joint instead of a double joint. That's because it looks a lot better, but also Hasbro is doing single jointed elbows with a little bit more gusto now. It has a very nice cut with a longer ratchet, which gives you a deeper bend. So you can still get a pretty good angle. There's a wide range of movement here, but without the unsightly joint of a double jointed elbow, especially on a bare arm like this. He has a pretty decent range of movement in the torso, but this is my one gripe about this figure is I wish he had the extra torso crunch on top of the torso joint, sort of like how Jaina Solo came with. Because if you want to get him sitting on the ground with his knees up and arms around his knees and stuff, saying that Yoda's asking the impossible, you can't do it. All you can really do is give him this sexy leaning back pose, which is fine, but not really what I'm going for when I'm trying to just get him sitting on the ground. And that's because his torso just doesn't crunch quite enough and his hips don't bend quite as far forward as they should. The next thing I do want to point out are the knees. These single jointed knees do well to hide the knee joints while still providing a decent range of movement. Visually, they're a lot more appealing. They don't break the sculpt. They look quite nice. And while the leg bend isn't quite as deep as you would get with the double jointed knee, you get a lot more stability with them. Pretty much all the stormtroopers sitting on the shelf behind me have bowed legs, so I do like it. I didn't at first, and if you go back and watch my review of the Knight of Ren and Count Dooku, I sort of poo-pooed these joints and I said I didn't like them. That was my initial knee-jerk reaction to them. But after experiencing them on the newer figures for the last, couple months, I do like them. So that's with Luke. Let's go ahead and take a look at Yoda's articulation.
Yoda's head moves all the way around. His arm moves out this far. He has a single jointed bend at the elbow as well as a swivel. He also has a swivel at the wrist. He has a swivel at his torso. His leg can go out that far. Back this far. He has a single jointed bend at the knee as well as a hinge at his foot, a swivel, and a rocker. With this being Yoda's widest stance with both his feet flat on the ground, kinda.
So the big thing I really want to point out here is that Yoda's articulation is good for his size. Being a smaller figure, it's really hard to get that articulation in those smaller joints while still having decent quality plastic and movement without worrying about breaking things. The original Yoda did have double jointed arms, but he was lacking any kind of arm swivel. So getting the old Yoda to hold his cane in both hands was hard, if not in some cases impossible, but also could end up damaging your figure by bending the plastic. This one, while he only has a single jointed arm, does have a swivel at the elbow, which gives you a much wider range of movement. The big difference here are the legs. The legs on this Yoda are far and away much better than the original Yoda. We have actual knee bends. We also have rockers and ankle pivot on his little feet. So while yeah, he's small and his articulation isn't very good by toy standards, it is good for what he is. But it's very clear to me that they were missing some of those articulation points because they were balancing it out with how well the figures can move versus how good they look in hand. Sometimes those articulation points can be unsightly. But speaking of the sculpt and paint and details, let's take a look at Luke here. To say that he is a work of art is right on the money. There's something simultaneously so clean and dirty about the way he looks. I've talked about how good his head sculpt is, but I want to talk a little bit about his hair. The sculpting in the hair is ridiculous, but coupled with the paint wash on the hair brings out a lot of those details. And that's a big thing you'll see with this whole figure is the paint wash they put on the sculpt brings out those microscopic details. The shirt itself, the tank top, has a lot of detailed patterns in there that if it didn't have that paint wash over it, they would look flat and pretty much invisible. The arms don't really have anything on them. They're bare arms, but they're sculpted really well. You can see his muscles in there. I mean, between the sculpt and the paint wash, it really does look like he's been climbing vines with a Muppet on his back all day. But Mike, you say, you're talking about how dirty he is. How could you say he's so clean? And I would say the cleanness comes with the silhouette that he strikes. Every Luke Skywalker figure released so far hasn't had that slimness that Luke Skywalker has sort of exuded, especially in that last fight with Darth Vader on Empire Strikes Back. The silhouette that he strikes when he pulls that lightsaber out is elegant and smooth and liquid almost. The opposite of what I feel like a lot of the figures are, but this, the slenderness of his limbs, the proportions on this figure just look right. This is what he's supposed to look like. And I feel like it's just something that's never really been captured at this scale before with any figure whatsoever. Between that and the way that the joints are mostly hidden, especially at the knees and somewhat at the elbows, he just looks really clean, but also dirty. He's a dirty boy. Moving on to Yoda, it's really hard to tell. Obviously, Yoda has a fantastic face, but the elephant in the room here is his robe. Just like the original Yoda, the robe here, while looking pretty good out of the package, quickly starts to fray. And you really can't get a sense of what's under the robe because the robe is so big and you don't want to break it because, again, it frays really easily. So you can try to push it up to see wear his arm bends so you don't break it when you're trying to pose him a little bit. You can try to pull it up to see what his legs are like, but the robe just kind of gets in the way. I know a lot of people like soft goods. I get it. I understand it. But I do feel like maybe it wasn't right for this. The robe itself is simultaneously too small, especially around the arms. They should be a little bit longer and a little bit droopier to match what he looked like in the movie. And the robe itself is also a little bit too long. One side of mine always kind of hangs down weirdly, and no matter how much I try to adjust it, I can't get it to look quite right. You also can't really remove it. The original Yoda, at least the archive release one, the belt can come off. You can readjust the robe, take the robe off, the belt comes off. This one does not. Now, if you are careful, you can wiggle the belt down below his little Yoda butt and his little Yoda legs. I wouldn't recommend it though. I couldn't really get it past his ankles or big feet, but getting the belt back up around his waist was a pain. I'm sure you can with patience, but I just didn't want to. It wasn't worth it for me to really see what Yoda looked like without his robe on. I'm sure the sculpt under the robe is good. It's probably just plain pants and shirt. You'll never be able to see it because the robe does its best to make sure that you can't. So it comes down to, did I want this? Is it available? And is it worth the money? As far as want goes, the answer is yeah, duh. Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie, and these scenes of Luke training are probably some of the most iconic scenes in all of Star Wars. Probably, honestly, top 10 iconic scenes, maybe even 5. I know a lot of people's first instinct was, we have enough Lukes in the line. There's too many Lukes, there's too many Yodas. We need more background characters. We need Ponda Baba and Mama Naden, and you're not wrong here. And I want to share in that mentality with you, but I love this. I can't not. I want this so much. So yeah, that's my official position. Yes, I wanted it, but is it available? When they first announced it, pre-orders went up on pretty much every online site. I ordered mine from Dorkside Toys. Just a few weeks ago, they started popping up at Targets and then later at Walmarts. I eventually snagged one down at Target. So yeah, I would say the availability is pretty nice. It's not exclusive anywhere. You can get it wherever you want. Keep looking. You'll find one if you want one. But the value, this right here retails for $45. Everything I've shown you, the 2 figures, all the accessories, all of that is basically the price of 2 figures plus a little bit more. Or if you're shopping at GameStop, just 2 figures in general, because GameStop overcharges. Is it worth the value here? If you break it down, yeah, it's the price of 2 figures. There's 2 figures in here, but granted, one of the figures is tiny, even tinier than he normally is in this line. So if I already felt a little ripped off buying Yoda for 20 bucks, this should be even worse, but it's better. So should I feel better about it? And the answer is I kind of do. Between all the things you can do with his alternate hands, the backpack, the improved Yoda, and that's the only way to get the Yoda, I do think the $45 is worth what you're paying for this pack. Do I wish it were 40 bucks? Yes. But if you want to hold out, you can get them for 40 if you find them at Walmart. I am willing to pay the extra $5 to get this now rather than trying to save $5. That's how much I love this. So when all is said and done, the final score I'm gonna give this is 4.25 out of 5. He is good. Maybe even figure of the year. I know I might have scored other figures better. There are a couple things I do wish were a little bit better about this. I do wish it were a little cheaper, but that doesn't mean I don't love it. I'm just being sort of objective about my review, and sometimes that love transcends objectivity. This is right now, at the recording of this video, my favorite figure set of the entire year. I get asked all the time, what's your favorite Star Wars Black Series figure? Mike, what's the best looking Star Wars The Black Series figure? Right now, for me, this is my answer. It is, it's the best. So if Empire Strikes Back is your go-to jam, if you could use one more Luke Skywalker on your shelf, even if you can't, if you want the best Luke Skywalker on your shelf, if you're looking for the best Yoda on your shelf, you need to do yourself a favor. Treat yourself and buy this pack. If again you want to save some money and you don't really care about the Yoda and the extra hands and accessories, then yeah, you can get the 40th anniversary version of this, but this is the way to go, in my opinion. So with that, that's my review of D4, Luke Skywalker, and Yoda. Let me know down in the downstairs area, do you have this? Are you gonna get it? Are you looking for it? I love to read and respond to all the comments down there. I'd like to take a moment to thank these people here for supporting me on Patreon at a Black Series level or higher. Thanks a lot, guys. It means a lot to me that you do that. I also do have YouTube members if you want to do that as well. All of this stuff goes to help out the channel. It just makes me feel nice that you guys do it, but also don't feel like you have to. I don't gate any real content behind that stuff anyway. If none of that floats your boat, down the downstairs area are a couple different ways you can support the channel that are free, up to and including liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting the bell for notifications, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for getting this far, and I'll see you later. Bye.